right, folks, welcome to another episode of Ethos of Warrior. Today, I am joined by my special guest, Tom Connally, an executive coach. So, Tom, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Well, first off, thanks for having me here, John. I'm a retired Marine colonel. Spent 30 years in the Marine Corps. I graduated from the Naval Academy in 1983. Come from a military family. Both my parents were World War II veterans. My dad was in the Navy. My mom was in the Coast Guard. My older brothers went to the Naval Academy and into the Marine Corps and the Navy. I followed that path, and I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. I've spent the last 10 years or more really focused on leadership. And how do we develop leaders? How do you improve yourself and your ability to lead? And of course, that all starts with the lessons that I learned as a young lieutenant on recruiting duty, sitting on the floor of my apartment when I was getting beat up on recruiting, figuring out that it's all about making sure that you know what you believe and then bringing your performance in line with your values. For 38 years, I have been teaching that to every command that I led and every place that I led. And of course, I did a couple of combat tours and commanded at every rank. But in every one of those places, leadership and these ideas of bringing your performance in line with your values, knowing what you believe, all of those things were always something that I spent an enormous amount of time with my people, especially my young leaders, helping them to understand and grow. So that's me. That's who I am. That's where my heart is. You know, I was writing a book for my daughter because I wanted her to know some of these things. My dad had done that for us when we were younger. My daughter was graduating from the Naval Academy. And so I started writing this book, and I realized that's what I wanted to do full time. I wanted to help young leaders, all leaders, improve their performance and success personally, professionally, spiritually, and physically, because I think all four of those pillars are critical as we move down the road. And so I looked at it and I said, you know, I've got to do this. I had to finish the book. I wanted to do that. My son is now a Marine officer candidate, and he is as well in that thought process of how do I develop and become stronger and better as a leader. And you have to do that, you know, first with your beliefs and then with all of your actions, and it has to line up. And once you can do that, then you're hitting home runs or just good line drive singles, because that's what it's really about, right? Just get on base, right? Get on base, right? Yeah. You know, make contact with the ball, move every day towards the objective. And then we grow in those ways. Who am I? That's me. And my wife said, how long are you going to do this, Tom? And I said, for the rest of my life. And she said, you sure about that? I said, yeah, I'm positive about this because this is what my life has been all about from day one. I didn't know it at day one, but it's absolutely been what my life has been all about, is helping leaders and executives, those who want to stand in front and commit to the idea of leadership to improve their performance and success, and help organizations improve their performance as well, because I think that's the ultimate. That's what you're doing as a leader. You are trying to grow your organization, and you're growing it by growing all those around you as you move down the road.
Once you kind of find your purpose in life, once you find your passion in life, that's what you do. You get after it. So since you've left the military, have you found that your leadership lessons are applicable to those outside of the armed forces as well?
That's the reason I did this, was because when I retired in 2013 from the Marine Corps, I worked for a couple different companies in the defense industry, but I always kept finding myself, whether it was in team meetings or proposal rooms or board rooms, it seemed like I was always talking about leadership, strategy, and organizational dynamics. I was always talking about those three things. And I was standing at a cocktail party one night talking to a bunch of my friends who didn't all know each other. And so I'm introducing them all. We're going around the circle, and you're the weapons guy, you're the IT guy, you're the strategy guy, whatever it was. And it came to me, and I guess I'm that. And one of them says, you're the leadership guy. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. I guess that's right. And that was right about the time where, all these things seemed to come together. And, my nieces and nephews, who are several are Marines, Marine veterans. And when I said, I'm thinking about doing this, they said, Uncle Tom, you have to do this. You have to do this because it's so needed out here. And people think about military leadership as being authoritarian, but you and I both know that anybody who's been successful in the military as a leader, it's because they've gotten past to that authoritarian piece. They've gotten to the piece where it's about love. It's about that brotherly love. How do you build that in a unit? When you build that in an organization, then you have people that want to come to work every day. They will fight for each other. And that's why they win. That's why we win. That's why Americans win, because that's what we do. And that's what our leaders, our good leaders, and we have so many of them, that's what they do. They build that bond of brotherhood. And absolutely, it's true. I think it's harder in many respects in the civilian world because there's no enemy over there. There's nobody for everybody to orient on. You know what I'm saying? In a fight, and when the bullets are coming this way, everybody knows that they should be pointed that way. And so it becomes very clear. There's great clarity in that moment. Chaos all around you, but there's great clarity in what your objective is. When you're leading an organization, everybody's dispersed maybe around the country, but at least maybe in cubicles, and they all have different functions, etc. That's a real challenge to a leader to think about, how do I get them all on the same page? How do we all understand and go in the same direction? And so all of those things that you learn in the military are absolutely applicable. You just have to look at it and say, what kind of challenge is this? Now, I will tell you, the greatest honor I had was commanding every unit. But one of the greatest challenges that I had was leading a headquarters battalion where everybody's got separate kind of missions and they're all over the place. And yes, they all support the division headquarters, but they do it in different ways. And those Marines all needed to feel like Marines. They all needed to understand their mission. They all needed to know that they were playing on the same team. It's much harder. Easy to think that you're standing out in left field. And that's the difference between baseball and football to some degree, right? I mean, you're the supporting effort. It's real easy to be the main effort, right? Everybody wants to be the main effort. You want to be with the guy with the ball with 20 seconds left. And you want to do that because you're a meat eater. That's great. But there are so many more supporting missions that are required. And the leaders in the civilian world and in any kind of organization that's dispersed like that, they have to figure out how to motivate and ensure that those people all understand the mission and the purpose and where they're going and how their piece fits into the whole scheme of things. And that's the mastery of being a leader. And it takes time to learn. It takes effort and commitment.
As an executive coach, you're working with Warrior Leader. If I come to Tom Connally, what else can you help me with on my personal or professional journey?
Well, specifically, I mean, there's 3 other areas, but specifically when you talk about strategy, when you talk about what is it that and how do you build a strategy for your organization or a personal strategy, but how do you build that strategy so that it encompasses what you believe, what your goals are, what your organizational goals are, et cetera? And then do you have the right people on the bus? That's your organizational dynamics. Do we have the right people in the right places to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish? So, leadership, organizational strategy, or organizational dynamics and strategy, those are 3 key things, but also personal development, that personal strategy. I start everyone that I work with, we start off with the first conversation is always about, do you know what you believe? Do you have a strategy for yourself? Do you have a personal strategic plan? Because if you don't, then you can be all over the map. So start there. What do you believe? What are your values? And then we can talk about leadership and how are you going to overlay and infuse this personal strategic values into your organization. And then how do we build a culture of performance? I listened to a thing the other day. A guy said, well, you only build culture by hiring people that believe like you believe. Well, if that was true, the military would never get there. So I don't believe that that's true. I believe there's value in the idea of hiring people that have similar values, but you're not going to find a whole organization where everybody necessarily believes everything that you do. But you do have to make sure that you can bring them into a group concept of what are we trying to accomplish? Where are we trying to go? What are we trying to do? And the idea, those fundamental principles that cause people to want to get up in the morning and go to work. They feel valued. They know what they're supposed to do. They know where they play in the organization. They believe they're going to be treated fairly. Those things, those fundamental principles that, of course, in the military, we learn at a very early age as leaders. You develop the ability to do that over time. This is why leadership is an apprenticed vocation, right? I mean, it is about not just reading all the books and being able to say, okay, I checked that block, I checked that block. You have to grow into it, and you have to deal with people who are able to feed you in different directions. And I say that because sometimes you're the master, right? Or you're the decision maker. And sometimes you don't know all the things that the expert over here does. And that expert may be your most junior teammate, right? I mean, we all know, when you walk into the motor pool as the new second lieutenant, you don't go try and tell the driver how to do his PM. You let the driver show you how to do the PM or the mechanic, and you let them teach you. And then you can begin to share that knowledge. Specifically, what can I help? Personal strategic plan, organizational strategic plan, organizational dynamics, and of course, leadership from the standpoint of who are you? Do you have you committed to these ideas of leadership? So those are the key places that I think I can help people. Time management is a huge chunk of that personal strategic plan. I think there's a lot of people that they don't like the idea of time management in the first place because it really does sound very, very, very cardboard, very stiff. But time management is more about aligning your performance and your values than anything else.
Is there anything else you would like to share about you before we sign off for the day?
I'll tell you, I am so pleased to be working with Warrior Leader and to be available and that I can help leaders at all different phases of their development here in various ways. It's just an exciting opportunity, and I look forward to it.
We're excited to have you as part of the team, and we're looking forward to changing the lives of many people out there. So thanks for taking the time out of your day. And for those listening, remember, stay hungry, stay true.